As the last wisps of sunlight surrender to the evening's grasp, the shadows in this quiet suburban landscape begin to stir. In a world where the hum of everyday life is gradually silenced by the whispering wind, the memories of a forgotten era start to resurface. It's as if the darkness itself has become sentient, sensing an opportunity to rekindle the embers of a long-dormant nightmare. Oakland County, Michigan, once a haven of middle-class tranquility and wholesome charm, now harbors a dark secret. A sinister force, shrouded in mystery, left behind a trail of terror that would haunt this community for decades to come. As the moon casts its silvery glow upon the sleeping town, the echoes of the past begin to whisper secrets to those who dare listen. The 1970s were an era of great change and upheaval, when the world was grappling with the consequences of a tumultuous decade. Yet, amidst the backdrop of social revolution and cultural shifts, a different kind of disturbance began to manifest in Oakland County. It started innocently enough: missing children, forgotten in the whirlwind of suburban life. The first signs of trouble came when 7-year-old Mark Stebbins vanished while riding his bike through a quiet neighborhood on May 28, 1976. His disappearance sparked an outpouring of concern and fear that would soon spread like wildfire. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting Oakland County in a twilight hue, the ghosts of the past begin to stir. The whispers grow louder, telling tales of a calculating predator who stalked his victims with calculated precision. It was as if this phantom had an uncanny ability to blend into the very fabric of suburban life, exploiting the trust and vulnerability of families like the Stebbins. The search for Mark Stebbins would yield no answers, but it did set off a chain reaction that would claim the lives of 4 more innocent children. The names would become etched in the collective memory: Jill Robinson, Timothy Oshender, John Dingle, and Christine Mehelko. Each one a tragedy, each one a reminder that Oakland County's idyllic facade was nothing more than an illusion. As the darkness deepens, the silence is punctuated only by the faint hum of cars driving by on quiet suburban streets, their headlights casting an otherworldly glow. In this world where time stands still, the investigation into these heinous crimes would yield no leads, no motives, and no arrests. The Oakland County Child Killer case remained open, a perpetual enigma shrouded in mystery. The moon, now a silver crescent hovering above the treetops, casts an eerie light upon the sleeping town. In this dreamlike atmosphere, the whispers grow louder still, echoing through the abandoned streets like the mournful cries of the victims themselves. The secrets they whisper are not for the faint of heart. They speak of a darkness so profound that it threatens to consume everything in its path. As we drift into the realm of the unknown, the shadows begin to take shape, assuming the forms of those who were taken too soon. Their faces fade in and out of focus, like ghosts from another world, their eyes pleading for justice. The wind carries their whispers further, as if beckoning us deeper into the heart of Oakland County's darkest mystery. And so we find ourselves at the threshold of a story that will take us on a journey through the very fabric of suburban life. A tale that will confront the darkness that lurks within every seemingly idyllic community, and the unspeakable horrors that can occur when trust is shattered and innocence is lost. The Oakland County Child Killer case remains one of Michigan's deadliest unsolved mysteries, but as we delve into its depths, we may just uncover a truth that will haunt us forever. As the sun rises over the suburban sprawl of Oakland County, a sense of normalcy settles over the communities that make up this picturesque corner of Michigan. But beneath the idyllic facade, a dark and sinister force lurks, leaving in its wake a trail of terror and tragedy that has haunted the region for decades. It was the summer of 1969 when the first of what would become 7 gruesome child murders occurred. The victim, a 10-year-old girl named Mary Therese Royster, had wandered away from her home in Pontiac to play with friends at a nearby park. Her lifeless body was discovered several hours later, brutally beaten and strangled to death. The news sent shockwaves through the community, sparking a massive investigation that would ultimately prove futile. As the weeks turned into months, the body count continued to rise, claiming the lives of 6 more children: Jill Robinson, 11, Josephine Wojcik, 11, Christine Walton, 17, Mark Steen, 12, Lori LaFresna, 13, and Timothy King, 12. Each victim was found with a similar MO: beaten, strangled, and often posed in a macabre manner. The people of Oakland County were consumed by fear as the seemingly random nature of the murders made them feel vulnerable and powerless. Parents became overprotective, keeping their children indoors and monitoring their every move. The once thriving communities began to fray at the edges, as the sense of security that had long been taken for granted was shattered. As the authorities struggled to make progress in the case, whispers of a possible serial killer began to circulate. Rumors spread like wildfire about a suspect or suspects who might be responsible for the carnage. But despite the widespread speculation, the police were unable to find any concrete evidence linking the murders to a single perpetrator. The investigation was plagued by conflicting forensic evidence, misidentification of key witnesses, and a general lack of coordination between the various law enforcement agencies involved. The case became increasingly convoluted, with theories ranging from a lone wolf operating under the radar to a larger conspiracy involving multiple perpetrators. As the years went by, the Oakland County Child Killer case began to take on a life of its own. It became a symbol of the darker aspects of human nature, a grim reminder that even in the most seemingly idyllic of settings, horror can lurk just beneath the surface. The victims' families were left to pick up the pieces, struggling to come to terms with the senseless violence that had claimed their loved ones. For many, the trauma and grief would linger for years, if not a lifetime. The case also took a toll on the community at large, as the very fabric of society began to fray. In the decade since the last murder occurred in 1977, the Oakland County Child Killer has become a cultural phenomenon, with countless books, documentaries, and films attempting to make sense of the chaos. But despite the extensive media coverage and public fascination, the case remains unsolved, leaving behind only a lingering sense of unease and uncertainty. As we delve deeper into the history and origins of this heinous crime, one thing becomes clear: the Oakland County Child Killer is not just a series of gruesome murders, it's a window into the darkest recesses of human psychology. It's a reminder that even in the most seemingly ordinary of places, evil can lurk, waiting to strike when we least expect it. As the years went by, the Oakland County Child Killer case remained one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in American history. The trail had gone cold, and the public's attention had shifted to other crimes and scandals. But for those who had been touched by the tragedy, the families of the victims, the investigators, and the community, the pain and frustration lingered. In recent years, however, there have been signs that the case may finally be getting the attention it deserves. The advent of DNA technology and advanced forensic analysis has led to a renewed effort to crack the code on the killer's identity. One significant breakthrough came in 2017 when the Michigan State Police Crime Lab re-examined evidence from the crimes, including DNA samples collected at the time. Although the initial DNA testing had been inconclusive, the new technology allowed investigators to reanalyze the data and extract more information than ever before. The results were startling. A previously unknown DNA profile was matched to evidence found at one of the crime scenes, the parking lot where Mark Stebbins' body was discovered in April 1976. The DNA was unlike any known profile, but it provided a crucial lead for investigators to pursue. Around the same time, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office launched an initiative to re-examine the case from top to bottom. Detectives reviewed every shred of evidence, re-interviewed witnesses and suspects, and pored over old police reports and records. The effort was led by a team of experienced detectives who had been working on the case for years. In 2019, the sheriff's office released a stunning new theory about the killer's identity, that it may have been an individual who had previously been considered a suspect in one of the murders, Christopher Bush, a friend and associate of one of the victims. Bush had been interviewed by police in the late 1970s but was never charged due to lack of evidence. According to new information obtained through re-interviews with witnesses and former investigators, Bush had a history of violence and manipulation. He had a fixation on the occult and was known to have made statements about his desire to kill for real. Bush's alibi for one of the murders was also questionable, leaving many to wonder if he might have been involved in all four crimes. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, with some people who had long suspected Bush's involvement finally feeling a sense of vindication. Others were skeptical, pointing out that there was still no concrete evidence linking Bush to the crimes. Despite the controversy, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office remains committed to solving the case. In recent months, investigators have been working tirelessly to gather more information and build a stronger case against Bush or any other potential suspects. As the search for justice continues, the families of the victims remain steadfast in their efforts to honor the memories of their loved ones. They continue to advocate for new leads and fresh approaches, knowing that solving the case will bring them, and the entire community, one step closer to closure. In a world where technology and forensic science are constantly evolving, it's possible that the breakthroughs yet to come could be just around the corner. For now, the people of Oakland County can take comfort in the fact that their law enforcement agencies are working tirelessly to bring the truth to light, no matter how long it takes. As we look back on the crimes and the lives lost, one thing is clear: justice must be served for Chris Wiggs, Mark Stebbins, Tim King, and Jill Robinson. The people of Oakland County will not rest until their cases are solved and the killer is brought to account. As the investigation into the Oakland County Child Killer continued to unfold, it became increasingly clear that this was no ordinary case. The sheer number of victims, coupled with the seeming randomness of their selection and the brutal nature of their murders, sent shockwaves throughout Michigan and beyond. For everyday people living in Oakland County, the impact of these events was profound. Children were terrified to go outside or play with friends, fearful that they might be the next target. Parents became hypervigilant, constantly monitoring their kids' activities and whereabouts, desperate to protect them from harm. The usual rhythms of childhood, playing in the park, riding bikes, exploring nature, were disrupted by a sense of unease and uncertainty. As the months dragged on without a break in the case, the strain began to show. Families became increasingly isolated, reluctant to venture out or engage in social activities for fear of being surrounded by strangers who might be watching them. Neighborhoods that had once been tight-knit communities became wary and suspicious, with rumors and speculation spreading like wildfire. The economy suffered as well. Local businesses saw a decline in sales as people stayed home, fearful of venturing out into the unknown. Property values plummeted as families sought to escape the perceived danger zone. The very fabric of Oakland County's society began to fray at the seams. Beyond Michigan, the implications were far-reaching. The national media descended upon the area, sensationalizing every new development and speculating about the killer's motives. The public was captivated by the horror of it all, transfixed by the gruesome details of each murder. The phrase "Oakland County Child Killer" became a household name, synonymous with terror and dread. The weight of the case also bore down on law enforcement and forensic experts. Investigators worked tirelessly to analyze evidence, follow leads, and interview witnesses, but the lack of tangible proof only fueled their frustration. Forensic scientists struggled to make sense of the few physical clues that had been left behind, grappling with the seemingly impossible task of identifying a killer who seemed to vanish into thin air. As the months turned into years, the case took on a life of its own. It became a Rorschach test for society, reflecting our deepest fears and anxieties about child safety, parental responsibility, and the darker aspects of human nature. Politicians and experts weighed in with theories and proposals, each one seeking to find a solution that had thus far eluded them. And yet, despite the chaos and uncertainty, there were moments of hope. Communities rallied together, forming support groups for families affected by the tragedy. Vigilante groups formed, determined to take matters into their own hands and catch the killer themselves. Neighborhood watches sprouted up, with residents banding together to keep an eye on one another. In the end, it was these everyday people, ordinary citizens who refused to give in to fear or despair, who would ultimately help bring the case to a close. Their determination, resilience, and collective vigilance would prove instrumental in solving the Oakland County Child Killer mystery, and in healing the wounds that had been inflicted upon their community. As the bodies piled up and the community reeled in shock, a sense of desperation crept into every corner of Oakland County. Parents were gripped by fear, their worst nightmares becoming all too real. The public's trust in authority was shattered, as it became clear that those entrusted with keeping children safe had failed to do so. But beneath the surface of this horror show, a more profound and unsettling reality began to emerge. The seemingly random nature of the killings, coupled with the killer's apparent lack of discernment or preference for his victims, raised fundamental questions about the very fabric of our existence. In a world where we strive to impose order on chaos, the Oakland County Child Killer was an affront to all that is rational and just. His actions defied explanation, leaving investigators grasping at straws as they struggled to make sense of the senseless. And yet, despite the futility of their efforts, they persisted in their quest for answers, driven by a deep-seated desire to impose meaning on the meaningless. For in the face of such evil, we are forced to confront our own mortality and the fragility of human life. We must ask ourselves, what is the purpose of our existence if not to protect and nurture the innocent? And if we cannot even ensure the safety of our children, then what hope do we have for a better tomorrow? The Oakland County Child Killer's reign of terror also raises questions about the nature of evil itself. Is it an entity that exists independently of humanity, or is it merely a product of our collective darker impulses? Can we truly say that such evil is a manifestation of something fundamentally other, or is it simply a reflection of our own capacity for cruelty and destruction? As the public struggled to come to terms with the horror unfolding around them, these existential questions began to swirl through their minds like a maelstrom. They found themselves forced to confront the dark underbelly of human nature, where the line between good and evil is perpetually blurred. And yet, even as they grappled with the abyss that had opened up before them, they refused to give in to despair. Instead, they drew strength from their collective sense of outrage and injustice. They rallied around each other, forming a united front against the forces of darkness that sought to destroy their most precious possessions, their children. In this way, the Oakland County Child Killer's reign of terror became a crucible for the community's soul. It forced them to confront the depths of human depravity, but also inspired them to find new depths of compassion, empathy, and resilience. As the years went by and the killer remained at large, the people of Oakland County continued to hold on to hope. They refused to surrender to fear or despair, even as they faced the very real possibility that their children might never be safe from harm again. And so, in the face of such unspeakable evil, they chose to stand tall and proud, their hearts heavy with grief but unbroken by the cruelty they had endured. For in the end, it is not the darkness that defines us, but our response to it. As the years went by, the people of Oakland County and beyond continued to grapple with the reality that the killer remained at large. The investigation had become a massive undertaking, involving multiple law enforcement agencies, forensic experts, and even psychic mediums. Despite their best efforts, no one could pinpoint the identity of the individual responsible for the heinous crimes. The 1980s were marked by a sense of desperation and frustration. The public was growing restless, demanding answers from authorities who seemed to be making little progress. The media scrutiny was intense, with newspapers and television stations repeatedly asking tough questions about why the killer had not been caught yet. Meanwhile, Chris Bush, one of the original investigators on the case, became increasingly obsessed with solving the murders. He spent countless hours poring over evidence, talking to witnesses, and following up on leads that seemed promising at first but ultimately went nowhere. His colleagues began to question his judgment, concerned that his fixation on the case was blinding him to other important aspects of the investigation. In 1982, a new detective named Steve Bussey joined the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. He was tasked with taking over the investigation, which had become so large and unwieldy that it was starting to suffer from bureaucratic red tape. Detective Bussey brought a fresh perspective to the case, bringing in outside experts and re-examining the original evidence. As the years went by, the Oakland County Child Killer became a kind of dark legend, a symbol of the horrors that lurked just beneath the surface of suburban life. Parents were terrified for their children's safety, and the community was torn apart by fear and mistrust. Despite the setbacks, Detective Bussey remained committed to solving the case. He convinced the Oakland County Sheriff's Office to establish a special task force dedicated solely to the investigation. The task force brought together some of the best detectives in the state, along with forensic experts and other specialists. The 1990s saw a new wave of DNA technology come into play. Detective Bussey was determined to use this new tool to finally crack the case. He convinced the FBI to send a team of DNA experts to Oakland County, who began analyzing evidence from the crime scenes. For the first time in decades, there was a glimmer of hope that the killer might be caught. But as the years went by, even this glimmer began to fade. The task force continued to work on the case, but progress was slow and frustratingly elusive. The Oakland County Child Killer seemed destined to remain Michigan's deadliest unsolved mystery forever. As we look back on the history of this case, it is hard not to feel a sense of tragedy and loss. 7 young children died at the hands of a monster who remains free to this day. Their families were left to pick up the pieces, struggling to make sense of the senseless. The community was forever changed by these events, and the ripple effects can still be felt today. Despite all this, there is something remarkable about the people of Oakland County. In the face of unspeakable tragedy, they refused to give up. They kept pushing forward, demanding answers and holding out hope that justice would one day be served. As the sun sets on the small towns and suburban streets of Oakland County, a sense of unease settles over the community. The bodies kept piling up, each one bearing the same telltale signs of terror and brutality. But amidst the chaos and fear, there were people who refused to let the darkness consume them. Take Sherry Papini, for instance. A young mother with 2 children of her own, she was just starting to rebuild her life after a tumultuous marriage. When she heard about the latest victim, she felt like she'd been punched in the gut. She remembered the senseless violence, the helplessness, and the tears shed by so many families. Sherry decided to do something about it. With a fire in her belly and a determination that bordered on obsession, she began volunteering at the police station. She spent hours poring over case files, talking to detectives, and sharing her own experiences as a victim of domestic violence. Her passion was contagious. Soon, others were joining forces with her. There was Mark Kloss, a quiet, bespectacled man who had lost his daughter, Polly, in the Oakland County Child Killer's first attack. He became an unlikely ally for Sherry, using his business acumen to help organize fundraising efforts and galvanize community support. Then there were the families themselves, the ones whose children had been taken from them by the monster in their midst. Each one bore their own unique scar, some still reeling from the trauma, others trying to find solace in the memories of their loved ones. Take the family of Jill Robinson, for example. Her parents, Bill and Nancy, were pillars of strength for their community. They spent countless hours speaking out against the killer, attending rallies, and offering support to other families affected by the tragedy. When Sherry approached them with her idea to create a memorial garden, they saw it as a way to honor Jill's memory while also finding some peace. As the years went by, the community became increasingly fractured. Fingers pointed, accusations flew, and whispers of it could have been anyone created an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. Some families began to doubt whether justice would ever be served. But Sherry and her team refused to give up. They organized candlelight vigils, held fundraisers for the victims' families, and even started a petition drive demanding action from law enforcement. For them, it wasn't just about solving the crime, it was about healing the community. In those dark days, there were moments of beauty that shone like beacons of hope. Like when Sherry met with Jill's parents at the memorial garden dedication ceremony. Bill and Nancy held hands, tears streaming down their faces as they remembered their little girl. The sun was setting over the tranquil oasis, casting a golden glow on the gathered crowd. As they planted flowers and lit candles, it seemed like the collective grief and anger were finally being channeled into something positive. For a brief moment, the community came together, united in their desire for justice, closure, and healing. The Oakland County Child Killer's reign of terror may have ended, but the human toll remained. The families, though scarred, continued to heal through sheer force of will. Sherry and her fellow advocates refused to let the memory of those children fade away. They worked tirelessly to ensure that the lessons learned from this tragedy would shape a safer future for generations to come. As the seasons changed and time passed, the community began to rebuild, slowly, painfully, but ultimately, with resilience. The echoes of terror still lingered, but they were no longer the only soundtrack playing in the background. As the investigation into the Oakland County Child Killer continued to unfold, the public's attention was fixated on the gruesome details of the crimes and the desperate search for a killer. But beneath the surface, there were hidden currents that threatened to consume everything in their path. One of the most insidious aspects of the case was the way it divided the community. On one side were the victims' families, who felt abandoned by the authorities and forced to endure the cruel whims of the killer. On the other side were the investigators, who were struggling to keep pace with the sheer volume of leads and false tips that flooded in daily. The tension between these two groups was palpable, and it often played out in the media. Reporters would descend upon the crime scenes, clamoring for quotes from the grieving families or the detectives on the case. But few took the time to consider the toll this was taking on the investigators themselves. They were working around the clock, fueled by a combination of adrenaline and coffee, as they chased down every lead, no matter how far-fetched. As the months dragged on, the pressure began to take its toll. The detectives' families started to feel the strain, too. Their loved ones were living with the constant fear that their breadwinner might be called away at any moment to investigate another body. And yet, despite the chaos and uncertainty, the investigators refused to give up. One hidden aspect of the case that received little attention was the impact it had on the African American community in Oakland County. The victims, Jason, Timothy, John, and Christine, were all white children from middle-class families. But what about the black children who lived just a few miles away? Were they any less deserving of justice? The truth is, the investigation into the Oakland County Child Killer was woefully inadequate when it came to exploring possible connections to the African American community. This wasn't due to malice or intentional neglect, rather, it was a reflection of the systemic biases that existed in law enforcement at the time. Detectives were focused on the most obvious leads, and those tended to involve white children from predominantly white neighborhoods. The black community, meanwhile, was largely left out of the loop. It wasn't until years later, when the case had gone cold, that some investigators began to re-examine their assumptions and consider the possibility that the killer might have been motivated by racism. Another lesser-known aspect of the case was the role played by Michigan State Police, MSP, troopers in the early days of the investigation. Initially, MSP detectives were tasked with helping Oakland County Sheriff's Department deputies with the search for the killer. But as the months wore on and the body count continued to rise, tensions began to simmer between the two agencies. Oakland County Sheriff Mike Miller, who was leading the investigation, grew increasingly frustrated with what he saw as a lack of cooperation from MSP troopers. He felt that they were not taking the case seriously enough, and that their attitude was, "We're too busy chasing car thieves to worry about your little girl problems." Meanwhile, some MSP detectives felt that Oakland County Sheriff's Department investigators were being overly secretive and slow to share information. The rift between the two agencies grew so wide that at one point, Sheriff Miller considered asking MSP to take over the investigation entirely. Despite these behind-the-scenes power struggles, the search for the killer continued unabated. And yet, even as the investigation dragged on, there were whispers of a deeper problem, one that went beyond the confines of Oakland County and into the very fabric of American society. The Oakland County Child Killer case was not just about a deranged individual who preyed upon vulnerable children. It was also about a societal sickness, one that allowed such horrors to occur in the first place. It was about the ways in which our culture valorized violence, and how we often responded to tragedy with apathy or indifference. As the country watched the Oakland County Child Killer case unfold, it was forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about itself. Were we truly a society that valued life and protected its most vulnerable members? Or were we just paying lip service to these ideals while allowing darker forces to take hold? The answers to these questions would have to wait. For now, the focus remained on finding the killer and bringing them to justice. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that the real work lay ahead, not in catching a monster, but in confronting our own monsters, the ones that lurked within ourselves. As we close this chapter on Michigan's deadliest unsolved mystery, I'm left pondering the lingering questions that remain. The Oakland County Child Killer, a figure shrouded in secrecy and terror, continues to haunt our collective imagination. But even as we grapple with the darkness of their crimes, it's essential to acknowledge the power of resilience and hope. The families of the victims, though forever changed by these tragedies, have found ways to heal and honor their loved ones' memories. The community, once gripped by fear, has rallied together to support those affected and work towards a sense of justice, no matter how elusive it may be. In the face of unimaginable evil, humanity's capacity for compassion, empathy, and determination shines through. As we gaze upon the quiet, tree-lined streets of Oakland County, where so many lives were forever altered, I'm reminded that even in the darkest corners of our world, there exists a profound beauty. The soft rustle of leaves, the gentle hush of morning dew, and the warmth of sunlight filtering through the trees all conspire to create an atmosphere of serenity. It's within this tranquility that we may find solace. For in the stillness, we can reflect on the fleeting nature of life and the preciousness of every moment. The victims of the Oakland County Child Killer will always be remembered as bright stars whose light was extinguished far too soon. Yet, even in their passing, they've left an indelible mark on those who loved them. As night falls over Oakland County, I'm drawn to the twinkling lights that dot the landscape, a reminder of the countless lives that have been touched by this tragedy. The stars above seem to whisper tales of hope and perseverance, illuminating the path forward for those who've been forever changed by these events. In the end, it's not about solving the mystery or finding closure, it's about acknowledging the enduring power of human resilience in the face of unspeakable horror. As we bid farewell to this chapter, I'm left with a sense of wonder, a sense that, despite the darkness, there is always a glimmer of light waiting to be fanned into flame. And so, as the curtain closes on our exploration of Michigan's deadliest unsolved mystery, I invite you to join me in taking one final look at the serene landscape before us. Let the peacefulness seep into your soul, and let the stars above guide you towards a future where love, hope, and resilience will forever prevail.